We've alluded to those shootings now. Divorce is now affecting innocent people. We talk about secondhand smoke. This is the effects of secondhand divorce. If you get the analogy that I'm saying.
Absolutely. I think that raises a really good, important point, because I've seen people on both sides of the aisle. I don't mean political aisle, but ideologically. Some people saying that marriage is purely a private contract, and then you have the state government saying that it's a public creation, like marriage is instituted by the state, which it's not. It's regulated by the state, but it's not instituted by the state. But on that point is to say that both a private and a public interest, and having other families be strong or intact, having strong pro-family laws is important for all of society, because again, like you said, like with secondhand smoking, you have secondhand divorce, and that creates problems for other people that are innocent or not involved whatsoever.
Right. So, Vladimir Lenin said, destroy the family and you destroy society. Actually, the model that we have right now for no-fault divorce, we could say that is a replication of the model that took place under the Bolsheviks, except that ours is more severe than theirs. Tell me again about the Russian experiment.
Well, it's interesting, because I think a lot of the impetus behind the Bolshevik Revolution was to break down society and then sort of rebuild it from the bottom up. So I don't know if that statement was an objective analysis or whether it was an agenda that he had. But certainly the statement is absolutely true, and it was even experienced in Russia when they first instituted consensual no-fault divorce in 1918.
Mutual. Both people wanted to agree to it.
Correct.
Okay.
So
but then it kind of devolved from there.
It took it a step farther. I think 8 years later, in 1926, the Family Code now brought it to a unilateral no-fault divorce. And that's a really important distinction, because I think that a lot of people think no-fault divorce entered, in the 1960s, 70s, 80s, and it did. But many of the laws involved mutual consent, or at least started off that way. But today we almost see every state have unilateral cases where only one spouse has to decide. So that was what was introduced in Russia in 1926, and it only took 10 years later when they finally, the Russian leadership, and I think even under Stalin, realized that reforms needed to be made in the family code to reduce poverty and homelessness and alcoholism. Poverty for the women mostly, alcoholism for the men, and homelessness for the children. So,
have you ever read that article in the Atlantic magazine from 1926 talking about divorce in Russia? You don't consider the Atlantic magazine as being a conservative magazine or anything, but they spoke about divorce in Russia at the time and the absolute tragic, devastating effects that it was having on women, on children. And here's something that not only would 20-year-olds men maybe have been married 3 or 4 or 10 times. They could marry, divorce, marry, divorce, marry, divorce. But the other thing you had was women, 20 years old, who had already had 3 or 4 abortions. Somebody gets them pregnant, leaves them. I don't think people realize how bad divorce is for society. Whether it's if you increase divorce, you increase the abortion rate, you increase the alcohol rate, the incarceration rate, you increase the incidents like Parkland shooting, you increase gang activity, you increase criminal behavior, you increase rage in different communities because their family has been destroyed. And I don't think people quite get that connection.
No, I don't think they do, because there's a lot of attention placed on issues of abortion, homosexual marriage, on a lot of different social issues that seem to be the result of the breakdown of family and strong family laws. And I think people are focused on these sort of top line, or I don't want to say superficial, but certainly the effects rather than the root cause.
Right.
And one of the things you mentioned that was interesting in the Atlantic article, and I remember seeing it, I don't remember everything that was in it, but no-fault divorce was a national debate. It was a national issue that gleans national publicity, and everyone around the Federation or the Empire talked about the effects of easy divorce on the family and on the social ills that it created. We don't have that in America. We don't have a national debate about no-fault divorce. It can be partly attributed to the fact that each no-fault law is a state-by-state issue, so we've sort of fragmented it into 50 different pieces. But there are commonalities with no-fault divorce, and I think those commonalities should be put out into the public sphere as a national debate to talk about how that leads to the other social ills that we are so often discussing.